The following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Yeah! Go Cowboys! This is Talkin Cowboys. Streaming live from the Dallas Cowboys World Headquarters at the Star in Frisco.
Handoff, Elliott plowing to the goal line. Barry, sacked by Lord. Prescott keeps it, and he bangs it in for the touchdown.
And now, your hosts, Isaiah Stanback, Patrick Walker, and Kyle Yeomans.
Today is Tuesday, March 7th, and we welcome you into a Tuesday edition of Talkin Cowboys, presented by Black Rifle Coffee Company, the official coffee of the Dallas Cowboys. We are back inside the SWB studios.
Yes, we are.
SWBC studios. I left the C off there.
It's okay.
No C?
Got it done. No C.
Okay.
As in Patrick No
Unless
C
it's
Walker.
SWBC, then we'll allow that.
Yeah, we'll let that one happen. We've got
Yeah.
the big logo up over my left shoulder here anyway, so it works out that way. Gentlemen, how we doing? Isaiah Stanback, Patrick No C Walker, Kyle Yeomans. We've got Chris Beam in the back. I missed you guys.
Yeah,
I missed you too,
absolutely,
bro. That was Indy, man.
I was going to say, we didn't have a chance to miss each other.
You guys were
working
shoulder
the whole
to shoulder,
time.
hip brothers.
We were shoulder to
Did
shoulder.
you guys stay in a
hip to
train
hip up
station, or
there.
did you guys stay at another hotel?
Another hotel.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah. I might have stiff-armed Patrick one time, like while we were just trying to get in the media scrum. We didn't even know. We were just trying to get up there, and I might have elbowed him a couple times.
It probably happened, and I probably returned the favor, if not
Yeah,
to you,
at least
then to someone else, maybe by
decked me
accident.
twice.
By accident. So
I had already passed by, and you just hit the guy behind
Hey,
me.
you know, we got to get in there. We got to talk to these prospects. We got to see who the Cowboys are interested in, who they have yet to show interest in. You know, we're trying to build our own version of the Cowboys big board.
Yep.
So, you know, got to get in there.
And we'll talk plenty of draft today. We'll talk about our takeaways from the NFL Combine. We may even hear a story or two of Isaiah's Combine by the time this show is all said and done.
People don't understand how much goes into the
Make them
combine.
understand it. Isaiah.
It's a long week, man.
Make 'em
It's a long week.
understand.
Most people see what? They see the last day of these guys
The
competing.
Scouts.
Yeah,
the scouting day
the
where
stuff they
they're
put
on
on TV.
on the drills. Yeah.
that's the stuff that people see on TV. What they don't see is all the medical checks.
Nope.
What they don't see is the trips to go get MRIs, and go get X-rays, and go get CAT scans. What they don't see is the late night meetings on your little card that you have, on a little lanyard on your neck, that you have to go and meet with 5-6 different teams every night and talk to them and talk to their offensive coordinators and their head coaches and their GMs. And they don't see all that strenuous work that's done. Oh, and then wake up that day and put out your best performance that's going to either make or break your draft stock, you know? So, I mean, it's a lot that goes into it. Guys are drained. They're tired. They're not necessarily sitting around, you know, eating the best all the time. Right. You know, they're having to have all these other meetings that are going along. So it's really a drawn-out week. And the thing that you see on TV is what people most care about. And that's literally when you're most fatigued, is when you actually have to put out that performance.
Yeah, and I mean, all of that on top of the fact that you have to get up on a podium and speak to the media. And a lot of these guys, some of these guys are very polished in doing that already, and some of these guys not so much. And it can be a little bit taxing mentally to have that fatigue from going through everything you went through in the week, because those guys were coming out to the podium directly from medicals. So you don't know what those conversations they were having back there. They could have been positive, they could have been not so great, but no matter what the conversation was, no matter what they had gone through to that point in the week, you still got to get on that podium and put your best face forward, because one wrong quote, one misinterpreted mood or attitude, and perception.
Absolutely.
And then the perception starts to attach itself and create its own narrative, and the narrative starts to gain. And especially nowadays in the social media aspect of it, because pre-2006, before Twitter and Facebook, all of this was still going on, but not to this degree.
Facts.
So these guys have to walk this fine line of trying to be perfect in the media, while also trying to walk with the fine line of these conversations with OCs and DCs and HCs.
And you're trying to be perfect in front of all the executives.
Right. And then at the end of it all, get on the field and run
And then,
the
do your
fastest
best.
40 you can run. Do the best shuttle drill you can run.
The most stressful part of it for me had to be a combination of the meetings with the front office at the evening times, right? And one meeting might be with a coach, another meeting might be with a GM, right? You just don't know. There was a lot of pressure, bro. And the health check. That, to me, wore me out. I remember going and having to get x-rays because I had my foot. I had the Liz Frank, and Adrian Peterson had the collarbone. So I remember us literally being at the being at the hospital longer than anybody. Like the shuttles were gone. Everybody was ghosts. We were literally sitting there back to back in one of those rooms. Looks like Saw. And we're just sitting there passed out.
You want to play a game?
Yeah, exactly. We're sitting up there passed out, and we're just getting x-rays and MRIs. And I mean, they're just testing us at the wazoo. And then when you go in these rooms, you're literally in a ballroom.
Yeah.
And there's tables all the way around the ballroom. And there's one little table, training table, in the middle. And they're like, all right, go in there. This is so-and-so. Go sit down. And they have a little manila folder. They open it up, and they read off all your injuries. Anything that's ever happened to you, they read it off, and then they say, all right, this is who he is. And then whatever doctors from all the teams that are interested in you come out there, and they start prodding on you. And you're literally, if there's something that's still ailing you, they know about it, and they are trying to get you to wince. They're trying to get you to twitch. They're trying to get you to, anything. And you have to try to keep the straightest face possible because you even just... Even they're like, what we got there? And like when I did it, I had just got out of my second foot surgery, which was they had put screws in my foot and then they had taken screws out. So I was supposed to still be in a walking boot, which I wasn't going to be walking around in a boot at the combine.
Right. Yeah, come on.
I wasn't supposed to throw, but I couldn't run, so I'm like, I'm definitely throwing.
Right.
So they got there and they literally started turning on my foot. They're pulling on my foot and torquing it.
Face?
What?
The whole
time?
Bro,
the whole time. When you talk about, you ever like hold your breath because something hurts so bad that your heart rate is like just beating out your chest, but you're like,
That foot was yelling. That foot was yelling.
Bro, I literally, no doubt. Y'all know I'm not a crier. I got out of there, bro.
Oh, no, bro.
I got out of there. I found the smallest corner I could. And, bro, I was letting it out. And I was talking to my agent. I was like, I'm going to kill him. I was so angry. I was so angry. There was one specific team, and I was like, I'm going to lose it.
Are you going to tell the team?
Oh, it was the Dolphins.
Oh.
It was the Dolphins doctors. And then they flew me in
I figured
for a visit, pre-draft visit.
Yeah.
Right? Because I took 3 trips for a pre-draft visit.
John Elway
4 trips. Huh?
Did you John Elway them? Like,
Bro,
I'm not going to you.
Yeah, so
Sorry.
I did Miami, Jacksonville, Dallas, St. Louis. That's what I remember. Right? Yeah, so Miami flies me down there and checks me out and then calls me, wakes me up draft morning and says that they were going to take me like at the top of the second day and then they chose like a punter or kicker or something like that. And I was just like, so you guys torqued on my foot. You made me fly from Seattle to Miami, and then you called and woke me up on draft day, and then you didn't draft me.
And then you hit a detour.
Good talk.
Yeah.
Did you ever get to play the Dolphins?
No, we played the Dolphins. When I was playing with the Patriots, we played the Dolphins.
We played the
Yeah,
Pats.
absolutely.
that's fair.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that'll work.
Yeah, that works.
That'll take you.
A little bit of a chip on the shoulder against the Dolphins.
I mean, that's the thing about the combine because the most important thing is the medical checks.
Oh,
That's
my
what's most
gosh.
important for the teams. Yeah. That's the most intense part for the players. I mean, that is the behind the scenes that fans don't see. I mean, we got multiple tweets because we got there on Monday and we left on either Friday or Saturday. And so when we were there throughout the entire week and we got text messages or tweets was like, why'd you guys leave right whenever the combine starts? It's like, bro, the combine starts on Sunday.
All week.
It had been going. We were there from early Monday morning. All of this stuff that Isaiah is talking about right here and the meetings with the players, that started early in the week, Monday night or Tuesday morning. That's when all of that stuff started. So, yeah, the combine drills. And guess what? It's easier. We were in the stadium. They've never let the media in the stadium ever before this year. Before this year, unless you were NFL Network.
I saw your seat. How was that?
It wasn't very inducive to what we were trying to do.
Right.
It's not easy to watch those drills in the stadium.
No, I would imagine.
It's much better to watch it on TV.
Yeah.
So much better to watch it on TV.
So that's why, I mean, us leaving to watch the drills at home on TV.
It's actually doing better work,
Yeah, doing
honestly.
better work.
Did you feel like you were a part of it? Like, I guess what's the best example I could use? I would as much as I love WWE, unless it's WrestleMania, I would much rather watch it at home. Because when you watch it on TV, you hear the commentating, you get the close-ups, and you get to hear it, and you see it, and you're engaged, and you see the names, and you see the times all live. I would imagine it's a different experience when you're at the combine, sitting there in the stands. It's like you don't get all that data all the time. I don't know if they display it on the screens. I'm not sure.
From a fan standpoint, I think it's cool.
Okay.
I really do. I think it was really cool to be in the building, to at least experience it, to kind of see. But you get such good access from the television side of the combine because you can hear the conversations on the field. They have these nap mics. They have this production value to where, like you said, there are close-ups. You can hear the conversations. You can look at the coaching and whoever's running the drills, and you can kind of hear what's going on. Whereas whenever you're in the stadium, you're put in a designated media section, which is the opposite side of the start line from the 40-yard line.
It's not the best angle.
So by the time you see the player 40 yards away from you, he's already run 65 yards. And then the vertical jump was on the very far side. I think the best time to be in the stadium is probably when they're throwing with the quarterbacks and the wide receivers. That's probably when you can actually see it on the field and have some sort of recollection of what's going on. Whereas everything else is much better to watch on TV, no doubt in my mind. It was really cool to go and to be a part of the drills and to see it.
Absolutely.
But that's not the most important part of what we were doing out at the combine.
Yeah.
What we were doing was talking to executives, talking to coaches, talking to scouts, talking to agents, and trying to figure out, and like Patrick said at the start of the show, build the board in our own right. And we were able to do that. We were able to put together some really good stuff.
A ton of conversations with these prospects, man, and these young men. Kudos to them, and I try to offer congratulations to them before I led with any question, because I mean, to get to this step alone, it puts you far beyond beating the odds. Okay, so now you're just one step away from realizing your NFL dream. But these guys, I mean, they've worked their butts off, and now comes teams have to make their decision now. Start to at least build their board. And I had a conversation with Will McClay, and it's interesting because I wanted his take on the challenge of walking the line between starting to build your big board effective immediately, while also knowing the unknown is present as far as free agency is concerned, because you don't know which of these in-house free agents you're going to be able to retain or not retain. But I was wondering, okay, you realize it's a fluid situation with your big board, so do you kind of just start putting some value on some of these players as far as the prospects are concerned, but then you say, let's put a pin in this position because we might retain Dalton Schultz, or we expect to keep Donovan Wilson at safety? And Will McClay, as blunt and succinct as ever, he was like, one thing does not impact the other. He said, we're going to build our big board irregardless of positional need, irregardless of what happens in free agency, and then we know that our board in April is true. It's true. It's completely unaffected by, were we able to retain Dalton Schultz? Were we able to retain Donovan Wilson? I found that very interesting. And you guys and gals, because Aisha Morrison was present as well.
Yeah.
And also shouts out to Dane Brugler, just a monster. You guys had a fantastic show, the draft show episode with Will McClay, when he really dove deep into that as well as other items like offensive line versatility and things like that. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you're listening to this, and you should be because you're elite, go back and check out each one of the draft show episodes from the Combine that Kyle and Aisha and Haley Sutton, that they were present on, and you're just going to get some fantastic content and insight more than anything on what Will McClay is looking to do going forward in this draft.
It really was a fun conversation, and Will's great. He's always been phenomenal with us, and shoot, he's phenomenal in terms of drafting as well. And a big reason for that is his mindset, and that's actually what I titled the show, was McClay's mindset. Yep. And he did dive into that. And it is interesting because there is a balance between free agency and the draft every single offseason. You can let your draft influence free agency, but you should not let your free agency influence your draft.
Fact.
The way that it could affect it is not by the way they build the board. The board is going to be true. 1 through 350 or however many prospects they have on the board. They're going to have that board stacked the same way, whether or not Dallas goes and trades for Aaron Rodgers or they go and trade for, I don't even know. I'm just throwing out dumb names. That's just the part of it. It could change drastically, though, because on draft night, depending on what happens in front of them, that scenario is what's going to dictate how they go down that board or who they go to on that board or how far down they go. That's how it'll change. It was really interesting to hear Will McClay talk about how there is no correlation between building the board, but depending on who you pick off of that board, that's what's going to happen because of what happens in free agency and what happens in the draft beforehand.
So I'm going to give you a quote that I put in the story that I wrote around Will. The other question I had that I was interested in is how how true is it that how true is the narrative, and I know the answer to this, but I wanted his answer to this. How true is the narrative that the Cowboys lean far more heavily on need versus best player available in the NFL draft on a perennial basis? So here's Will's answer. Quote, everybody's got needs, and everybody will say, oh, you have to draft the best player available or the position of need. It's a combination of the two. It's how you navigate that and how you truly value the player. That way, you don't push guys up the board because of a need. You want to keep it consistent so you can consistently draft well. So ladies and gentlemen, you heard it directly from the mouth of the Budweiser Clydesdale. Okay, not just a horse. It's
The Miller Lite Clydesdale.
The Miller Lite Clydesdale.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Shouts out to the sponsor. You heard it straight from the horse's mouth. The Cowboys and Will McClay specifically, in conjunction with Stephen Jones in the scouting department, they're looking at a mix of BPA and need. One of those two things are not tilting the scale. And that is great to hear from McClay, because that lets you know that the days of, Gordita Charlton are behind us, right?
Gordita.
Because they're not drafting to fit a scheme.
Was that a hate on a Gordita?
No, it wasn't a hate.
Is that a hate?
No, it was just,
Okay, I was about to say we're gonna have to talk about that.
Oh no, absolutely not hating on Gordita.
Okay,
it's
all right.
fantastic. I'm just
wanna
saying,
make
I just wouldn't want a Gordita playing, rushing my pass.
No, that's probably
that's all
fair.
I'm saying. So. And no shade to a guy like Rob Marinelli, who is a great human being, a great respected coach in this league. But one of the biggest knocks to Rob Marinelli was that he would pound the table to draft to fit his scheme and not necessarily the best, most talented player who might be able to play that particular position. So nowadays you're seeing guys like Micah Parsons come off the board in the first round with the Cowboys. You're seeing guys like, CeeDee Lamb's still available. And none of the Cowboys mocks that year, 2020, did they believe that he'd be available, but he was, and they was like, scrap everything. We're taking this guy. So you love to see that, and then you love to hear the confirmation, the affirmation from Will McClay that's where the Cowboys are.
And let me reiterate, just because I know somebody might take this and run with it, that trade that I mentioned and the name that I mentioned are not happening. That was just dumb hypothetical. So just want to put that back out there.
Just conjecture.
Just me being me. All right. When we come back, we're going to transition from a little bit of combine talk. We're going to talk about a tag. So we've got the tails of the combine. We've got the tag.
You're it.
Tony Pollard's it. When we come back here on Talkin Cowboys.
When you build, you start with the foundation. And home ownership is a foundation of a stable future. The Bank of America Community Home Ownership Commitment has helped over 34,000 people lay the groundwork so far, with up to $10,000 towards your down payment or 3% of the purchase price, whichever is less. The satisfaction of owning your own place can become a reality. Visit bankofamerica.com/homeowner to learn more. What would you like the power to do? Bank of America N.A. Equal Housing Lender. Credit and collateral is subject to approval. Restrictions apply. This is not a commitment to lend.
Lil Sweet! Did you get to work on time?
Yeah, but I just realized it's Sunday.
Lil Sweet says head on home. Dr. Pepper's on its way. So sweet, unique. Baby, there's nothing better. I bet you've probably done something that deserves a Dr. Pepper. Did you invest your nest egg in an NFT?
Yeah, and I don't even know what that is. It's a non-fungible token.
Everyone's done something that deserves a Dr. Pepper.
Todd thought it would be secure to jog in the cheetah savanna. Todd believed the big cat repellent he bought online was reliable. And now, Todd is trying to be faster than this cheetah that can run 80 miles per hour. But the good news is, Todd has AT&T 5G that is fast, reliable, and secure. And he learned the best thing to do is stop running and toss her the backpack with the beef stew. AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure. It's not complicated.
5G requires compatible plan and device. 5G may not be available in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
Are you ready to take coffee off your grocery list forever? Black Rifle Coffee Club is here to help. As a coffee club member, you'll get your favorite coffees roasted, packaged, and shipped to your door free of charge on your preferred schedule. Set it, forget it, and never run low on coffee again. Members also get exclusive deals on coffee, products, and discounts from partner brands. Ease your mind and let Black Rifle worry about your coffee supply. Go to blackriflecoffee.com to join the coffee club today.
Back to Talkin Cowboys.
This is how we country. Country music's party of the year is coming to Ford Center at the Star in Frisco. The Academy of Country Music Awards are always bringing you country music's brightest stars together under one roof. And no one does country quite like Texas. Witness history on May 11th. Get your tickets at SeatGeek.com. You're a big country guy, Isaiah.
Yeah. The countries I'm going to get is going to this rodeo. Mm-hmm. Rodeo's this weekend, boys.
Where is that at?
Over there at Globe Life.
Mm-hmm. Oh, in Arlington? Over by AT&T?
Doggone right, buddy. You know what else is going on at AT&T this weekend?
Stadium tours?
Yeah, of course, stadium tours.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
What else?
Line that up. There might be a little RV show over there.
You know what happened at AT&T Stadium this past Saturday? That was
Funtown RV. Yeah. They were for a little while.
Wow.
I think they're still a sponsor.
Well, at least they're
huge.
Still paying.
Yeah.
They
do great work.
They're taking over stadium.
There's something fun going on at AT&T Stadium.
It's free.
This past Saturday was the Monster Truck Rally.
Monster Truck.
Monster Jam. Yeah.
Did you go?
Did you go?
Yeah, I took the family.
Nice.
Took the family.
You have good seats?
Oh my God. Yeah. Cowboys.
Did you take the earplugs?
There's some perks to working for.
I don't
You got perks?
Yeah, I was about to say I never got any tickets.
I didn't get.
You didn't
see that email.
RSVP. You didn't reply to the email.
Oh, you got
What
an email?
I didn't get.
I didn't get an email.
Wow.
I don't know what to tell you guys. So it was
Degrees of
I guess
separation.
we need to
see.
talk to Derek about that email. That
No, they sent the emails just RSVP.
I don't get those emails.
But yeah, I went with the fam, and it was fantastic, and the little ones just had a blast. I had as much, if not more, fun than they did. I've always been a huge monster truck guy, like ever since I was a little boy.
Who won?
So, it was almost Zombie. It was Zombie. Gravedigger won though.
Gravedigger
That's
won.
My dog. Yeah, Gravedigger won. Zombie was right there, and he made it to the finals in the race competition. But his motor, I don't think his motor blew. I think his fuel line blew.
Bro, it gets
right
loud
before the
in
final.
there.
Yeah, but I loved it. Yeah, you feel it. You feel it. See, you don't get that from electrified cars and stuff.
So, question for you guys.
Yeah.
Was there anybody at the combine that just ran up your board?
Yeah, a couple guys. Yeah. Nolan Smith definitely ran. He ran up the board. He ran off the board. He ran past the board. I don't even know. I mean, a 4.39 as an edge rusher out of Georgia. That dude moving. There was a slim hope, and by slim I mean super slim, that he was going to fall to 26. That's out the window.
Gone.
No, he gone. He's a lock.
Go
Somebody's
Dogs.
going to go grab him.
4.39,
bro. Mm-hmm. Faster than Saquon Barkley, faster than Christian McCaffrey, and he's an edge rusher.
Did Darnell run up your board any?
A little bit. I liked what he did on the sleds because that was kind of he manhandled
Did you
the sled.
just exploded through the sleds?
Yeah. So I liked what he did there. Hands are still a big time question, but man, as a blocker, he could be fun. Not at 26. Don't give me a 26.
No.
If he's there at 58, I would consider.
I was going to say day 2, early day 2 pick.
Yeah, I would consider if he's in the third round. Somehow he slips because of the hands or because of the worriness of the size. Yeah. He's 6'7" for all those listening. Tight end. 6'7" tight end.
Freak.
If he's there at 58, I'm okay with it. If he's there in the third round, I will run to Kansas City to put the card in and know that it's not a bet. I'm not actually going to do that.
But you know what position I'm looking at?
What are you looking at?
Interior O-line. Was there any dogs on the interior O-line? I know it's not a popular position to watch at the combine.
I was about to say it's not really a position that pops. That's like a Senior Bowl position where those guys really jump out. And Cody Mock out of North Dakota State was one of those guys.
I did like Osiris Terrence, though.
Torrance did play out of Florida. Osiris Torrance. He measured in where he needed to. Okay. His playing weight in the season was 346. That was his playing weight. At the Senior Bowl, he was at 337. Now he's down to 330 at the combine, and that's what's going to be the official weight on everything is 330.
That's a small person.
That is it's still a massive human being. That is good momentum. I mean, he's lost 16 pounds, and he looked better in the combine than he did even in the Senior Bowl just a couple months, or about a month and a half prior.
And, oh, by the way, he confirmed he had a formal meeting with the Cowboys.
Yes, he did.
So there's also that.
Yeah.
Keep an eye.
I remember my formal
Osiris
meeting
Torrance.
with Mr. Jerry.
Yeah.
How was that? Tell us about it.
A little bit of pressure. Was there a McGriddle and some salt present? Or
no. I remember.
Son, I need you to take this McGriddle.
It was cool.
Eat it with some salt and let me see how you react. That's where they were trying to get you to wince.
I was so just blown in the wind at that time because my draft stock was in limbo. I didn't know what position I was going to get drafted as.
Yeah.
I played quarterback, but people wanted me at 1,000 other positions. I was coming off a foot injury, right? A really bad foot injury. I didn't know if I was going to get drafted.
But they didn't make you
day
wits.
1, day 2. I didn't know. I had zero idea. There's so much speculation as to what could have happened. Had I ran my 40, I mean, I'd have been gone. So it'd been way up there. So it was just.
What would you have run?
I asked my track coach. I literally, because after I saw the Florida player quarterback run his time, I sent it to my coach.
Anthony Richardson?
Yeah, I sent it to my coach. My coach said you would have ran a low 4.2.
A low 4.2?
Where he ran 10.9 in the 100. I ran 10.4.
Low 4.2?
I'm telling you what my coach said.
That's like record set. I mean, John Ross holds the record.
Yeah, what school did he go to?
I think UW. UW.
Hey, but
he went about 15 years after you did.
Very much so, and he was a lot smaller than me.
Yes, he was.
Hey, but
you had the longer career.
Yeah, well,
that's
no, he's back.
Where's he at now?
Kansas City.
That's right. He's on their practice squad, right?
No, they signed him to a futures contract. He's gonna be a problem. They always revive people. Yeah,
here he goes.
But we were talking about the game of tag.
Yeah, let's talk about the tag.
Freeze tag.
I love tag.
Yeah.
Is this a freeze tag or is this a warm up for something to come?
Well, my understanding and my expectation before they placed the tag, and for those that may not know, the Cowboys officially placed the franchise tag on running back Tony Pollard on yesterday, 1 day ahead of the NFL deadline, which is today at 4 p.m. Eastern time. That's going to buy the Cowboys until July 14th or 15th to negotiate a long-term deal, and I expect that's what this is for. I expect that they are looking to get a long-term
placeholder
deal done. It is a placeholder, and in my estimation, you talked to Jerry Jones at the Combine. Jerry Jones basically said, we have big plans for Tony Pollard, end quote. Obviously, you hear something like that from the owner and general manager. Nothing about that indicates it's a one-year situation.
Correct.
Right? They want Tony Pollard here for the long term. Awesome. It's just a matter of getting it done, if they can, prior to July. But what it does do is keep other teams from being able to negotiate with Tony Pollard while the Cowboys are trying to do their own negotiations, and that's the big part. Because you did not want Tony Pollard to hit the open market. And I realized that some people are saying, well, you're guaranteeing, worst case, you're fully guaranteeing him $10.1 million for 2023 with him coming off of an injury. But keep in mind, yes, there was some, ligament damage that needed to be repaired in his ankle, but the primary injury was a broken fibula. That can heal, set easily. I don't even expect that he'd start training camp on the physically unable to perform list. I'd be surprised if he did. So the Cowboys obviously, it's their medical staff, which I've said this before, I'll say it again, the best in the world.
Yep.
The best in the world. And if that medical staff looked at Tony Pollard's injury and the recovery time and all of the data and looked over at Jerry Jones and Will McClay and Stephen Jones and said, oh, yeah, by all means, you should be totally fine with at least $10 million for this guy, then who am I or anyone to sit back and say, oh, well, we have concerns. Show me your license.
I have more faith in this training staff than probably anybody.
This
I spent way too much time with them.
Sure.
Do you think that there may be a little hesitation now when they speak about the health and projection of the return of Tony Pollard and what he can come back to based upon what for the front office saw from Michael Gallup this year?
Different injury.
Absolutely different injury.
Same thing with Zeke.
Absolutely.
Different injury. Because a lot of people are comparing it to Zeke too.
Totally different.
All three situations are very unique in their own right.
Agreed.
With Tony, I'm not as worried because it's a fractured foot, ankle, foot.
Fibula.
It's a fibula.
Yeah,
So
shin.
Yeah. So it's a fracture. It's not a ligament.
Right.
So it's bone. It's easier to heal. And it's quicker to heal. Mm-hmm. And, Patrick was going back and forth with some people on Twitter yesterday. Made me laugh. I actually giggled a little bit while we were getting ready for a broadcast.
Thank you.
And he screenshotted the date. He screenshotted it, and he quote tweeted somebody who was having some trouble talking about Tony Pollard and his return. It's March 7th.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We're in March. Training camp, they don't report for training camp until July 25th. We're okay. I'm
just throwing it out there. I have no issues, and I
don't think there's any worry.
Yeah, I don't think there's any worry, but I'm just saying, there was a lot of faith, given to that department, and Michael Gallup did not come back the way that I know that this team hoped. Right? So I wonder if there's any little crack in the armor there in terms of your faith in regards to their expertise. No. I don't have any. No. I'm saying like that's just a natural feeling, right? It's like, hey, you said Michael Gallup was going to be good.
The reason I say no is this, and you make a valid point, but it's injury versus timing as well. So the injuries are wildly different. It's a broken bone versus a torn ACL, massively different things. But also look at the timing of when the injuries occurred and when the players are coming back. Tony Pollard, again, as Kyle stated, I screenshotted. What is today's date? Right, it's March and early March at that. You have between March and the start of training camp, let alone September, which is when regular season kicks off.
Yeah.
Okay. So even if they wanted to take it easy and be more deliberate and cautious in training camp,
he wouldn't see
he's not going to see a single
snap
preseason
at all.
snap. Yeah. First and foremost, Tony Pollard is not stepping onto the field for a preseason snap. So if the Cowboys played it more judiciously, and that means you probably wouldn't expect him to be on the field until week 1. So now you're talking about between the injury itself happening in mid-January to early September, a fractured bone, no concern.
Nope,
but
good.
to the Michael Gallup point, I guess the counterpoint would be if he was with another team, would he have even come back as soon as he did? So would he have been able to come back in October? Maybe it was November with another team, maybe December, maybe that training staff with, the hypothetical team says, you know what, you got to sit this out.
Yeah, understood. And they do an amazing job, and they have a lot of guys that they have to nurse back every offseason.
Sure.
Right, including this offseason. Looking back at Michael Gallup and the development that he had and knowing that he wasn't who we thought he would be, what would you have done differently?
I think Gallup's was more of a confidence thing. I mean, he said it himself. I remember specifically a conversation I had with him about 2 weeks out of his return, and he specifically kept pointing to the mental aspect of it. He said, I could run all the routes. I'm not getting any soreness in my knee when I'm out there practicing. I just have to get more confident with feeling like when I go up to high point this ball, that when I come down, I'm going to be okay.
Be fine.
And because
I feel like somebody talked about that before.
Who might it have been?
I don't know.
I think it was you.
The Talkin Cowboys show.
Oh yeah,
addressed that.
yeah.
Best show.
Well,
a lot of wisdom on
dressed
the show.
brother with long hair.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did say it.
You did talk about that though.
I set you up.
The mental side. Yeah, that's
the
the biggest hurdle to overcome. It really, really is. And that was my concern with Dallas giving him as big a contract as they did, not knowing if that aspect was being accounted for.
But you can never know.
Exactly.
Yeah, you can never
exactly.
know.
But that was my concern though. Physically, you're going to get back from these injuries, right? Technology's come a long way. Medical staffs are amazing, right? Resources are amazing. Physically can be accounted for. The mental is what can't be accounted for.
That's a harder one to kind of get.
No, because the training staff has no jurisdiction on that.
That's what the player has to bring.
Exactly.
And you think about some of the other players that have come in and either been evaluated or are already here and have been injured and they've moved on from. This training staff knows how to tell the front office no.
Yeah.
In tough situations.
Correct.
I don't want to throw names out there of free agents that they've turned away. A specific in-house. What about Lyle Collins? Lyle Collins, after the hip injury, was never the same. Yep. That's a hard decision. They saw him trending in the right direction prior to the injury at right tackle. Thought he was going to be here for 5 to 6, maybe 7 or 8 years. Not the case. He got hurt, never was the same. This training staff went out and said, hey, there's an opportunity here to maybe upgrade because Terrence Steele's in the wings. We don't think that this training staff or this injury is going to really be the same. And it never really was. So because of that, they moved on from Lyle Collins, and it works out.
Such a valuable piece for this organization.
Similar to Blake Jarwin.
Blake Jarwin's another
example. The Cowboys had some high hopes for him that he'd be the field stretching playmaker tight end. Suffers the torn ACL, comes back from that. It's not really the same. But when he suffered that hip injury, this training staff looked at the front office and said, "This isn't going to. He won't come back from this and be anywhere near the same guy." And hopefully, down the road, you have to hope the best for a guy like that. But in the conversation of is the training staff not only really good at what they do, but do they have the wherewithal to look Jerry Jones in the face and say, you got to come off this guy? Yes, we have examples.
But that's the thing is none of this and none of what we're saying is breaking news. No. That was known about Lyle. That was known about Blake Jarwin. That was known about plenty of other free agents in the market that never got signed because this training staff wasn't comfortable. But all of that is to say, If this training staff looked at Tony Pollard and they had any sort of reserve on him and his injury, they would have said it.
That's the science.
Instead, you have the tag here, and the tag it's not guaranteed he's playing for $10.9 million this year.
10.1.
10.1, whatever it is. Yeah,
You're thinking-
10.9
you're
was
thinking
Dalton
Dalton,
Schultz
yeah,
last
you're
year.
thinking Dalton.
10.1 this year. It's instead it guarantees he's a Cowboy going into 2023.
Yep.
But the second thing it does is it allows for the conversation to continue. I think both parties, and I've said this on this show before, both parties can benefit from a long-term deal.
Yep.
Tony Pollard wants multiple years. He wants to be here. So he can benefit.
Mm-hmm.
Dallas wants multiple years. They can benefit from having Tony Pollard here. So I think by that deadline, which is April 15th, I believe.
For
the long-term deal, or is it July 15th?
July 15th.
July 15th. So even further, you now have that window of opportunity to have those two contract talks, those negotiations to find a deal, and then all of a sudden the cap hit's not nearly as much. You don't actually have to sign the franchise tag, and then you're moving on and you're moving forward with one of your best offensive weapons.
It's a much more positive and optimistic conversation between Tony Pollard and the Dallas Cowboys organization over what, if we're doing a direct comparison, and recently we talked about Dalton Schultz last season, felt like there was a bit of contention there.
Yeah.
Right? Especially after the selection of Jake Ferguson, then in the signing of Peyton Hendershot and undrafted free agency, kind of writing on the wall there, but Dalton had already signed his franchise tag, and then there's a little bit of contention because the deal hadn't been done yet. You know, go back, you can see the history of it. But the Tony Pollard situation is everybody wants it done. Mm-hmm. Tony wants to be here. The Cowboys want Tony to be here. The Cowboys are trying to keep the tandem together between Pollard and Zeke, and that becomes the next question, because now you've guaranteed that Tony will be here. Question now becomes, what can be done to financially make it palatable for the Cowboys to keep both Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott together?
Let's continue talking about that, because how does this affect Ezekiel Elliott? How does this change things for Zeke, or does it change things?
Yeah.
All right, we're going to talk about it when we come back with more Talking Cowboys.
Todd thought it would be secure to jog in the cheetah savanna. Todd believed the big cat repellent he bought online was reliable. And now, Todd is trying to be faster than this cheetah that can run 80 miles per hour. But the good news is, Todd has AT&T 5G that is fast, reliable, and secure. And he learned the best thing to do is stop running and toss her the backpack with the beef stew. AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure. It's not complicated.
5G requires compatible plan and device. 5G may not be available in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
Black Rifle Coffee Company serves premium coffee to people who love America. When you drink Black Rifle coffee, you are directly supporting veterans, law enforcement, and first responders in your community. Black Rifle's expert roasters love coffee almost as much as Texas loves football, so it makes sense that America's Coffee partnered with America's team. Go online at blackriflecoffee.com and fuel up with the official coffee of the Dallas Cowboys. That's blackriflecoffee.com to fuel up today.
This sweet! Did you get to work on time?
Yeah, but I just realized it's Sunday.
Little Sweet says head on home. Dr. Pepper's on its way. So sweet, unique. Baby, there's nothing better. I bet you've probably done something that deserves a Dr. Pepper. Did you invest your nest egg in an NFT?
Yeah, and I don't even know what that is. It's a non-fungible token.
Everyone's done something that deserves a Dr. Pepper.
Want to use what the pros use? How about the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys, Jack Black? Right now, you can get the Jack Black Starter, a curated collection of Cowboys locker room favorites for just $10 with free shipping. The starter includes 4 Jack Black skincare favorites, plus a full-sized intense therapy lip balm. Go to getjackblack.com/cowboys and use the code word TEAMJB. That's getjackblack.com/cowboys. The Jack Black Starter, $10, free shipping.
Back to Talkin' Cowboys.
Get a behind-the-scenes look at all things of the Dallas Cowboys with tours of AT&T Stadium and the Star, presented by SeatGeek. Check out the locker rooms, playing fields, Super Bowl memorabilia, and a whole lot more. Get your tickets today at dallascowboys.com/tours. Back on Talking Cowboys, presented by Black Rifle Coffee Company, the official coffee of the Dallas Cowboys. Based off of our first segment where we were talking tight end a little bit here, I put a tweet out there because I saw a lot of smoke this morning from Cowboys Twitter. Cowboys Twitter, draft Twitter. I put it out there. I said, so now we're all okay with the Cowboys taking a tight end in the first round all of a sudden because Dalton Kincaid out of Utah has now been a name. Darnell Washington from Georgia has been a name. I'm not there on it. Michael Mayer from Notre Dame. There are some really good tight ends. I'm not okay with it unless it's truly the best player available. I'm okay with it if it's the best player on your board. I just have a hard time thinking there won't be another good player there for you to take at a better positional value.
And that's kind of how I feel about not only that, but the running back position as well. And even if, and we'll see how things work out, and we'll talk about it in a moment as far as Zeke is concerned, even if for whatever reason the Cowboys and Zeke part ways, you still have Malik Davis that you can come up and that you can bring up to RB2. But also, the Cowboys, for the most part, have shown that they know how to find running back talent in the mid to late rounds. So I don't see a situation, and for those that are saying, well, what if Bijan? I'm not even willing to entertain that conversation because Bijan Robinson is not escaping all the way to 26. I have him in the top 10, and I'd be surprised if he makes it out of the top 15. But what he's not going to do is make it to 26. So I would look more so at a guy like A-Chain out of A&M as a day two if you were just hell-bent on getting another running back. But at 26, and I realize the 26 pick is more so early second round than it is late first round, if you think about it contextually. But I'm out on running back because you have a bigger need at cornerback. You have a bigger need at linebacker. You don't know what's going to happen with Leighton Vander Esch. I would like to see Leighton Vander Esch come back, but there's no guarantee that happens. And if he does not come back, we love Damone Clark. But outside of Damone Clark, what do you have? You don't know yet about Jabril Cox. What is he going to be this coming year? He basically had a Michael Gallup season, right, coming off of that torn ACL. He just wasn't right, couldn't get enough playing time. So the linebacker core is another thing that you have. Safety. Are you guaranteed to keep Donald? No, you're not guaranteed because you used the tag on Pollard, which was smart because the tag on Donald would have been $14 million. I'm out on that, but I'm all in on a long-term deal for Donald. Too many questions at too many other positions to sit here and say, yeah, I'm fine with tight end in the first round.
Nope.
I'm fine with running back in the first round. I'm not.
You know what I want?
What do you want?
Interior O-line, Kyle.
Oh, yeah, we're going right back to it.
Doggone right, Kyle.
So, interior offensive line would certainly help the run game.
Yeah.
With Tony Pollard.
And blocking for number 4.
And Mr. Dak Prescott.
Yeah, so, I mean.
What about 21?
Yeah, anybody. That's
Anybody in the backfield?
So this is no disrespect to Zeke. I love Zeke. However, if the number doesn't make sense, obviously you're going to have to part ways. Mm-hmm. That's with anybody. Hopefully that's with any player nowadays. So they're taking care of themselves first, and you hope that take care of yourself fits in with your organization.
Take care of your chicken.
That'd be awesome. But the reality is you got to take care of yourself. So if he can get more bread elsewhere and it makes sense for him, take into account all the moving expenses and the taxes and ramifications and all that kind of stuff, if it makes sense to stay here, awesome. If it doesn't, then wish him luck, right? If you sure up, this is for all the people out there, if you have a beast of an offensive line, as Dallas had at one point in time, it didn't matter who you put in the backfield. It didn't matter if you had a Murray. It didn't matter if you had a Zeke. It didn't matter if you had a McFadden. It didn't matter who you put back there. They're going to get 1,000 yards. Now, that's no slight on any of those guys and their abilities and their talents, but it doesn't matter who you have in the backfield because the running back talent level is so high in this league now. And there's no spite on any of these guys. But if you have a beast of an O-line, I could plug and play at the running back position. Now, that's not to say that some running backs are going to perform better than others.
That's where I was going with
But
yeah.
I'm saying that I can put anybody back there, and if I'm freaking bulldozering people out the way, guess what? There's 90% of the backs that made it to this level is going to give me 5 yards in a cloud of dust. And that's what you're looking for. Now, you look at the home run hitters, you look at the power backs. Now, you got all those other things you can start getting into. But if I have a beast of a line, I'm not as concerned with the talent level of the guy that's behind them.
Let's talk about Zeke. With the talent level and the discrepancy there, is that, like you said, if the number doesn't match, they're going to have to do something about the number, whether that's cut or whether that's a restructure and maybe a cut and a re-sign where he takes a pay cut. Either way, there's probably going to be movement with Ezekiel Elliott in the next couple of weeks. Patrick, what do you expect that to look like?
I'm of the thought process the same thought process that I've had over the past several weeks, several months, when I've sat in the same chair on the same mic, and I said, and again, this is me speaking for me. I'm not speaking for another man's pockets. I just feel like Ezekiel Elliott would be open to taking a pay reduction to remain in Dallas for a couple of reasons. Number one, he wants to remain in Dallas. He loves the city of Dallas. And, oh, by the way, his best friend is the quarterback. Yeah. He doesn't want to play with any other quarterback not named Rain Dakota Prescott. And in addition to that, he understands, and I love this about Zeke, the evolution of his mindset, the maturity that he's come into. He will openly and has openly said, whether directly or indirectly, being able to tandem with a guy like Tony Pollard extends his career.
Absolutely.
At the most brutal and punishing position in the NFL that has the shortest shelf life of any position in the NFL, if you have found the sweet spot, if you're in a situation where your team has found the sweet spot, 50-50, 51-49, 60-40, who cares? You're going to get a ton of reps. He's going to get a ton of reps. Both careers are being extended. This, contrarily, is also, not contrarily, but spinning it around, this is also why Tony Pollard would want Zeke to stick around. So you can also believe that Tony Pollard is probably in Zeke's ear saying, hey, you know, I want to stick with you. See what you could soften your stance a little bit, right? If your stance is hard and soften it, let's try to keep the band together.
That stance is going to have to drop. He's going to be. He's going to have to take 33% of what he's making.
That's where it becomes a challenging conversation for the Cowboys.
21%. 21%
of what he's supposed to make this coming year.
I'm just throwing out.
Oh, it's got to be 33. Yeah, I know what you're saying.
That's where the conversation becomes challenging. It's what does Ezekiel Elliott and his representation view as a respectable offer from the Cowboys?
Because there is a value.
He has value, and he has pride. So he wants to stay, but if you walk up to him and you say $2 million a year, like, come on, come on, what's the optics of
that?
But
like, how much?
Right?
Okay, real straight question. I know we got you ready to get out of here. Straight question. How much money are you going to allocate towards your running back room?
Oh, we talked about this a few episodes ago, and people would know if they watched that episode.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing is now you've got $10 million wrapped up right now.
I told you I'm 16 to 17, and I'm fine with that because the salary cap has gone up quite a ways, and you also have the ability. You're likely. Let me put it that way. You're likely going to try your best to extend Dak Prescott. That's going to free up tens of millions of dollars just with pulling that trigger, and then you have other triggers you can pull, other restructures you can pull to free up more money. I'm fine with a $16 million running back room when these are the two running backs you're talking about.
It was $19 million last year.
Right. So what are we talking, $2-3 million reduction, and you see the production that you get out of these two guys, and you see what happens inevitably when one guy gets injured. You have two 1As.
All right, let me ask you this question then. I hear what you're saying.
Yeah,
is it more important to have? Is it more important to retain both of those guys, or is it more important to get an all-pro offensive lineman added to your interior line?
You can do both.
Yeah, you can.
You can do both.
You can.
Okay.
You don't have to do one or the other. It's not a one or the other.
So do
because like we just talked about
there
with 19
sprinkles are for winners.
A little bit more than 19 million was what it was last year because you had Tony Pollard's rookie contract and Zeke's hit was 18.2. That actually takes a $2 million reduction this year. Okay. It goes down to 16.7. So I guess a $1.5 million reduction. If you can cut that down, the tag on Pollard is 10.1. You give Zeke however much, the 3 to 5 million, 3 to 7, 7's still even pushing it for me. You're going to have what, $15-16 million against or allocated to the running back position. That's actually dropping down from last year. You can take a couple of those million and go find your
better still. I'll extend your formula and say this: we're doing this math based upon a $10.1 million franchise tag. If the Cowboys can get a multi-year deal on Tony Pollard, now it's no longer a $16-17 million room. The 2023 cap between those two to get this type of production and insurance against each other, potentially getting injured at certain points in the season, that hit now becomes, what are we talking, 10-12 million?
I like it.
Yep. How about that?
I like it a lot.
Absolutely. I mean, that's $7 million a year that you could allocate somewhere else.
You need it
based off of what was spent on running backs last year.
And then
that's enough to get a good offensive line.
Yeah, and then you get to revisit the position.
You want an all-pro.
Great.
Yeah, and then you just revisit
two
the position.
all-pro.
We'll work on that later.
Two all-pro offensive linemen.
Okay, now you're getting greedy. All right, that's it for Talkin Cowboys. Isaiah's going to ask for 3 all-pro offensive linemen by the end of the show. For Chris Beam, for Isaiah Stanback, Patrick Nosey Walker, I'm Kyle Yeoman saying so long. We'll see you next week on Talkin' Cowboys.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys? Yeah!